Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is my guide to Mega Evolution in Pokemon. I think that there's a little bit of misunderstanding with the goals of Mega Evolution in Pokemon, and I'm just going to try to go and throw out some of my opinions and my thoughts of Mega Pokemon. They might help you out competitively with this understanding, or just overall, it's a good guide for Mega Evolution. So, first off, why even Mega Evolve a Pokemon? Well, it just makes the Pokemon stronger. Generally, they're going to get a lot of things that they needed, stat-wise or ability-wise, and it's just going to be a really good boost to your team comp. That there's over 40 Mega Evolution Pokemon that aren't legendary that you can use on any team. So it really has it to where I feel that you need at least one Mega on your team. Or at least that, you should at least consider all of the Mega Evolutions before not throwing one on your team, because there's one Mega for every kind of team composition that you want, and it can really bring a team together if you have the right Mega. And it's like having a legendary Pokemon, that with the base stat boost, it puts them on that legendary tier, and I think that that's how Mega Pokemon should be understood. It's like your one legendary Pokemon for the game in a non-legendary format, or it's like making a stronger legendary Pokemon to fight with other stronger legendary Pokemon. That I think Mega Pokemon need to be looked at, that they are supposed to go 6-0. They are supposed to be that Gambit Pokemon that's either going to destroy multiples of your opponent, or take your opponent's Mega to kind of counter out. And like, that's really all there is to it. That to win a Pokemon battle, one Pokemon has to knock out two at some point, and you can win. And I think that that's where the Mega comes in. That's where you're supposed to put some support into to really bring out the strongest in the Mega. So also, let's just look at what a Mega Evolution is. Mega Evolving is pretty much sacrificing an item to gain base stats and a better ability, because you need that Mega Stone. So the idea behind it is that, say you're going to trade that Life Orb for speed. Life Orb gives you just attack and special attack, but it doesn't give you speed. It's also the same with choice items. That it's like you're giving up a choice band or a choice scarf or choice specs to get the extra stat that you don't get. That you get a little bit of offense and a little bit of speed, or some defenses. There's really no defensive items, so you're like trading leftovers for higher durability and higher stats, as well as a potentially better ability. And I think that that's how it needs to be looked at. You're giving a lot of trades that sometimes these trades don't work out, and the Mega Evolution isn't really that useful, or depending on how you look at it, it's what the Pokemon needed. That a Pokemon that wants to have a Scarf and a Life Orb, or that needs a little speed with the Life Orb, can kind of get all those things together, and then have the freedom of choosing without being locked into a choice item. So next, let's talk about the kinds of Mega Pokemon, because there's many different kinds, and this is kind of like what the guide is supposed to be about. First off, let's talk about the setup Mega Pokemon. These are the Pokemon that are going to have a very small window of vulnerability to take them out. But once that window is gone, they can pretty much take out an entire team. These are going to be your Mega Kangaskhans, your Mawilds, your Salamences, that they're going to be looking for that setup. That, you know what happens if you let a Mega Salamence get Dragon Dance. You know what happens if Mawile starts Swords Dancing. Then they generally just overwhelm you with speed and priority, and it's going to take multiple Pokemon, or at least a Focus Sash, or some kind of really absurd strategy to get through these Pokemon. And again, I think that the trade is fair in this case. That these Pokemon are very frowned upon for their strength, but at the same time, they're the Mega. That if you can use a normal Pokemon to knock this out while they're in setup, you still have your Mega advantage, they lost theirs, and now the battle can swing massively into your favor while taking advantage of these Pokemon's setup. Also, on top of that, we just have standard sweepers, that these are the regular sweeper Pokemon that end up just getting more stats. They don't have to do anything crazy. They don't have to set up any kind of stats. They can just come out, start scoring KOs, start getting massive amounts of damage, and then you're going to be strong. Like Mega Blaziken, Mega Gengar, these two Pokemon stand out really well. Both of the Charizards, Charizard X can technically be seen as more of a setup Mega as well. And some of these Megas do both, that some of them, you can play them as standard, you can play them as setup, you can also play them as other kind of Megas that I will talk about in this list as well. But this is more just like for ideas, that what does your team need? Do you already have a couple of setup Pokemon, so you just need a regular sweeper? Or do you already have a couple of tanks, so you could go with a setup Pokemon? And that's really where this guide is going to help out. Also, Mega Evolution makes a lot of Pokemon usable. That Beedrill, it has very, very little, if not none. Like, it just has straight up no competitive use whatsoever until Mega, and now it's one of the fastest, hardest hitting Pokemon in the game after that Mega Evolution. So Mega Evolution can bring a very good surprise, or it can make a really underwhelming Pokemon super strong. Medicham got a lot of awesome stats, and Pinsir is also a very strong Pokemon as well. So it's cool to see that, you have a chance to bring a Pokemon that would otherwise have no strength whatsoever into a battle because of the Mega Evolution. Also, there's non-Mega Pokemon. Pokemon that could either be a Mega or not be a Mega, and you can play it as its own dynamic. That if you bring a Sableye and a Garchomp, or you bring a Sableye and any of these Pokemon, it's kind of like, wait, is the Sableye Mega or is the other one Mega? And then you have to make them react to that, you know, are you going to Mega Evolve Sableye and use that Magic Bounce? Are you going to not Mega Evolve Sableye and keep the Prankster? At the same time, other Pokemon, it's like, you know, is this Gardevoir a threat? Is it just going to be a support, or is it going to Mega Evolve and Hyper Voice me to the face and destroy everything? So you can also use non-Mega Pokemon as non-Megas to keep that dynamic going as long as they're paired with another Mega. This can work in singles or doubles, and I think it's something that you should consider, that a lot of these Pokemon do have strong non-Mega variants. That, you know, you can bring a regular Salamence, and that's still a very strong Pokemon, and then you have to make them guess, like, oh, they're of course going to make that Salamence Mega. They go for that, and then they realize, oh wait, that other Pokemon just Mega'd, and now it's destroying my face. And I think that this is one of the cool dynamics behind Megas that you could actually really play with. After that, we also have Megas that just are strong Pokemon getting stronger. Garchomp, for example. It doesn't really gain too many more sweepy stats. It just becomes tankier and harder hitting, so it's the strong getting stronger. Same with Metagross and even Slowbro. That Slowbro is going to also be a setup tank that's looking for those Calm Minds. It's looking to be just absurdly impossible to KO. But it was already a very used Pokemon. That a lot of these Pokemon that are getting Megas, some of them already got play to begin with. Like Blaziken's really strong, Garchomp's already really strong, Tyranitar's really strong, and then with the Mega, you can choose to make them just stronger. That it also plays into the non-Mega dynamic. Is he going to make the Garchomp stronger, or is he going to make the Tyranitar stronger? Which one could it be? And if they guess wrong, you have an advantage. So you can play it up like that. Also, some Pokemon, they were already somewhat usable, but they got the epic boost. They got the stats that they needed. And they also got the abilities that they needed as well. I'm looking at you, Mega Lopunny. Mega Lopunny becoming a normal fighting type with Scrappy is kind of like the best thing. It's all that this Pokemon ever wanted, and it works out to be really strong. Altaria got some good defenses. We also have Sceptile. It got the speed and special attack that it needed to really become a strong Pokemon. And I think that that's really cool that, you know, some Pokemon, they either went from not very used to actually usable now, or they just went from needing a couple of things and then getting exactly what they needed to become a strong Mega Pokemon. And then we also just have like slow supportive Pokemon. It's Pokemon like Audino, Pokemon like Ampharos and Camerupt. These Pokemon, they work in Trick Room, that you have to build a team dynamic around them, but they can be very strong about that, and they also have a lot more power, that these Pokemon get massive boosts to either their defenses or their offensive capabilities, and they can still be very strong. And they also have supportive qualities as well. So it's cool to see that, you know, if we look at all of this, whatever your team needs, you can fill it in there. That, do you just need that extra sweeper? Do you need a setup Pokemon? Do you need a better tank? Do you need just a stronger regular Pokemon? Do you want to bring that cool dynamic Pokemon that got a huge boost? This is why I feel that a Mega is needed on every team, because it's supposed to be that stronger Pokemon. However, while we are talking about some stronger Pokemon, there's some Pokemon that just needed more of the Mega Evolution, and these are Pokemon like Absol. I would even have to say Abomasnow, because it kept its same ability. That Pokemon that keep the same ability, they're not getting that extra boost from the ability that they needed. That they're really giving up an item for a couple of extra stats, and most of the time it doesn't come through. This is Mega Abomasnow, and then also even with Houndoom. Houndoom didn't get the right stats in the right places, and Solar Power ability takes investment to work with, and even then you could just choice specs and have the same stats overall. So it does kind of create damage. I could also even put Scizor here, like Mega Scizor to a degree. You do get more bulk, but in the same, your Technician that's going to be trying to use Swords Dance, that's going to try to bullet punch everything down, and regular Scizor with a, Citrus Berry, Leftovers, or even a Choice Band can kind of do the same thing. That Choice Band or Life Orb on a Scizor gives it more offenses, and then you just kind of sacrifice a couple of defensive things, but if you're getting that Swords Dance, kind of doesn't matter in the end. So some Pokemon did need more, which does kind of reduce the usable pool. And also, just because I haven't mentioned a Mega Pokemon in this video, doesn't mean it's not usable. There are still a lot of really strong Megas out there. These are just like examples that you can bring to a team to get a lot out of. Like under the support. Like even though it isn't a slow Pokemon, if you properly support a Swampert, you know, you give it that rain, it can be a very strong and terrifying Pokemon as well. And then we also just have legendaries. You know, we have Deontay, we have the Latios, even though they are usable in VGC. You can actually Mega Evolve Latios and Latios, which is really cool. And then you have Mewtwo. These Pokemon, very strong, very high base stats already, just getting stronger, and some of these Pokemon are incredibly absurd, like Mewtwo X and Mewtwo Y. They get some of the highest base stats for their respective stats in the game, and they become very just crazy. And then we also have to talk about Primal. Primal Reversion is it's similar to Mega Evolution in the way that it works, but you can actually Primal Evolve and Mega Evolve. There's no limits on Primal. And even then, sometimes the Pokemon aren't as strong. I would say that Scarf Kyogre is better than Primal Kyogre, because really, it depends on the ability, though. Like, if you're in doubles, Primal Kyogre can be stronger to keep your team safe with that Fizzle out on the fire. So a Pokemon that's weak against fire, like Scizor or Ferrothorn, it has nothing to worry about. But if you're in singles, you know, you can still throw a Scarf, monstrous Water Spout, and you can still be good. Groudon does get a lot of really good things, though. It fizzles out Water-type moves, so that means Pokemon like Camerupt, Mega Camerupt even, are not as threatened at all. And then we just have straight-up God-tier Megas. Mega Rayquaza breaks all the rules. It's a legendary Pokemon, so it already has legendary stats. That gets even better legendary stats. And then you also don't need an item to Mega Evolve it, so giving up that item, which is like the one thing that keeps most of these Mega Pokemon balanced, it can run a Life Orb while getting bonus stats, while also already being a legendary. So it's just a God-tier Pokemon. Oh, it's also Lord Rayquaza, so it's a literal god to many people. Huh. So I hope this video helped out. I hope you guys like really think differently about Megas. I still feel that with all of this, that you should be running at least the one Mega Pokemon for your team. That Game Freak has put a lot of effort into it. That some of these Pokemon are very strong. That a lot of these Pokemon can have a lot of potential to just 6-0, sweep an entire team with somewhat little effort. And I think that that's the idea here, that if you're looking at this much on the strength, that these Pokemon are supposed to be absurdly overpowered, so you have to bring it. That, you know, it is one of those things. Now you can bring a lesser used Mega, or you can use a commonly used Mega, and it's still going to play into this Mega dynamic that Game Freak has set up. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a nice day.